إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه وبركاته عليه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم يغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن خير الكلام كلام الله جل في العلا، وأحسن هدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. As we continue in the chapter of من تبرك بشجر أو حجر ونحوهما, as we continue in regards to the lesson where we stopped at, Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwa, where it says, whoever seeks blessings with a tree or a rock or anything similar to it. We talked in regards to this title in which the great Imam, and we are actually, if you want to say for lack of a better word, slicing and dicing the actual title of the chapter and giving a little bit of clarification in regards to each word that he mentioned as a heading to this particular chapter, which is whoever seeks blessing with a tree or a rock or anything similar to it. From last lesson, Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwa, we talked about seeking blessing with a tree. And we talked about the example of that, or the namadij, or the examples of how you'll find that the Salaf, in regards to, for example, the Sahaba radiallahu anhu ardahum, how they cut off every door that would lead one down the road to polytheism. And from those doors you'll find a tremendous, great example in which the great Al-Khalifa Al-Rashid Al-Thani Al-Faruq Umar Al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, in which, like we talked about, what took place during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, where they had gave the pledge and allegiance to him alayhi salatu wasalam, in that particular gathering called Bay'at al-Ridwan. Bay'at al-Ridwan, meaning the tree was called Ridwan. Under that particular tree, they gave the pledge and the treaties, or they gave the pledge and allegiance to the Prophet ﷺ for certain affairs. From them, as far as what we talked about before, maybe in regards to polytheism, not to commit it, to the other affairs in which Allah Ta'ala mentioned in His book of what they gave pledge and allegiance to the Prophet ﷺ upon. Like we said, from them was leaving out polytheism. From them, for example, was not to fornicate. From them was not to steal. To the other good qualities that every human being should have. But at any rate, the point of what we're mentioning in this story, like we talked about, when this took place of the pledge of allegiance or the bay'ah to the Prophet ﷺ, Umar al-Khattab, seeing that this would be a trick that shaitan would try to utilize in order to make the people fall inside of polytheism, where shaitan would arouse the interests of the people, thinking that there's something special about that particular tree, because what took place of this tremendous affair that took place under the tree, and as a result of it, shaitan would try to decorate to the people that there's something specific or something very special about that particular tree, which more than likely, like we talked about before, will lead the people down the road to polytheism, in which the great Sahabi Al-Khalifa Al-Rashid radiallahu anhu ardah cut the tree down. Cut the tree down and also buried its whereabouts, so no one could take it as a place or something as a place of tabarruk, a place as, or a particular matter, or a place as seeking blessing by that thing, by either going to it, touching it, feeling it, rubbing one's body on it, to the end of it. So this was an example to clarify what the great Imam mentioned in the book here, right everyone? Of not to seek blessing with a tree, because we talked about that Umar al-Khattab commanded that it be what? Cut.
Also likewise, not to seek blessing with a tree or what? Or a rock. The example of that also likewise manifests through the different details that we've been elaborating on for the past couple of lessons. However, we talked about there are rocks in which you'll find that people actually try to seek blessing from. From them is that rock that's in Palestine to today. You'll find that people actually try to touch that particular rock which exists in Palestine, which is now in Jerusalem. You'll find that there's a particular rock there which the people touch or they feel or they rub their bodies on in order to so-called receive blessings by, which also likewise is prohibited. Due to the fact that we talked about before, there's no text to establish that one receives barakah by these particular matters. Also likewise, for example, we gave another example of a rock in which it is truly blessed. However, everyone, that this particular matter, it is an affair that is what the Prophet ﷺ encourages that we do, which is to touch or kiss the black stone. But however, it's not used in order to what? Like we said, and I apologize again, it's not used in order to seek barakah by, but however, it's used in order to what? To worship Allah Ta'ala by kissing it. In which the Prophet ﷺ, like we talked about, encouraged that one to kiss the black stone. But you'll find that there are people that go to the extremes, I'm sure, of those who go to Mecca and they'll actually witness with their own eyes. Alhamdulillah, I've seen it done so many times. Every time I went to Mecca to perform Umrah and also Hajj, you see people going to the extremes where they even rub their faces on it, they rub their bodies on it, they'll punch people and abuse them and hurt them and harm people that surround it. And they will also, for example, just stay there for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, rubbing their bodies, hurting and throwing everybody off who tries to touch it, to the end of the extreme practices that you'll find that some of the Muslims have fallen into due to lack of knowledge and due to ignorance. The only thing that is mashru', that is legislated, is that one when he either touches it or kisses it and he keeps moving. That's it. As far as the other affairs of harming or punching or hurting or pushing one off or offending one off or rubbing your body or rubbing your legs and rubbing your feet and rubbing your head and punching anyone who tries to get in your way, all these affairs are what? Prohibited. But you'll find, like we talked about, this is an example of what the Imam has mentioned in his book where he said, seeking blessing by a rock. Like we talked about, the black stone that is around the Kaaba is utilized in order to worship Allah Ta'ala by only. It is not used for tabarruk or seeking blessing by. We also talked about and said anything similar to those two affairs, either the rock or a tree. What is he speaking about? For example, like we spoke about before, in regards to what, everyone? In regards to graves or domes or structures that have been raised upon Tariq, pay attention. It's not time to pay attention, look at your fingernails. Also the graves, huge domes and structures that have been raised above some of the people who are dead. You'll find that they raise or they build on top of their graveyards huge structures or something of a dome in certain places, in certain countries. And you'll find that people will go and they'll start touching the dirt and rubbing it on their face, or touching the actual dead or the grave and rubbing it on their face and rubbing it like this, rubbing it on their bodies, rubbing it on their face. And they'll also, even certain women will do certain things that are inappropriate and very obscene with their with certain parts of their body. All of this is ordered to what? The so-called seek blessing by. And what is also, you'll find from their practices and their ways, it will take place even in Al-Madinah, around the grave of the Prophet ﷺ himself, and the grave of his sahibay, of his two great companions, Abu Bakr and Umar al-Khattab. And we know, you'll find that people will go up to either the gate, or they'll try to touch it. You'll find that they also whisper, or they maybe hum something. Some people don't know what they're doing. If they either make a dua to Allah or dua to the Prophet ﷺ, which is polytheism, and you'll find that they take their bodies and they rub it against the gate or rub it against the walls, and they'll try to touch it and feel it and put their faces on it, and they'll rub their bodies with it. All of this is what? Prohibited. And it does not justify the fact that the Prophet ﷺ's grave is there. Just because the grave is there does not justify something incorrect. Just because it's where the Messenger of Allah is buried and his two great companions. And it's the house of Aisha. This is the Mahbatul Wahi, or the place where revelation descended. So this justifies for me to do this what? Prohibited matter. La, it doesn't. Rather, this affair will make and anger the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Due to the fact that we know he alayhi salatu wasalam prohibited all these matters. And especially making dua to him. Dua to the Messenger of Allah, polytheism. Rather, this type of matter will anger the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam because it destroyed the whole mission of why he came in the first place. That act right there, making dua to him, destroys his whole message of why he even came. The whole message of why he came was to establish the Tawheed of Allah, the worship of Allah. Right, everyone? For that reason, we say, Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwa, this is another affair in which it needs to be what? Directed to Allah alone, which is what they call tabarruk, seeking blessing. We talked about last lesson, Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwa, in regards to the ayat that the great Imam that he put in his book. From those ayat, you'll find, what does it say? The ayat which comes in Surah An-Najm. He uses that evidence and proof. We already discussed a bit of this, a little bit, we touched on. And there's no problem, inshallah, that we reiterate it again and just repeat some of what has already been mentioned. There's no problem with that. And inshallah, we'll try to reiterate just a little bit of the details we given in the prior lesson. But anyway, the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, if you look in your books, everyone, he says, أَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّةَ. Right, everyone? Do you see Lat? Do you not see Lat? If you go back a little bit in the ayah, no. If you go back a little bit in the ayah, Allah Ta'ala says in his book, if you go up a bit, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was talking about how he showed from the great signs. We just give a little bit of this before we get into that. Just give me a second before we start to get to the rest of the context of the ayah. But anyway, the great Imam that he mentioned in his book, أَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّةَ. Do you see Lat and do you see Uzza and Manat? We talked about Al-Lat, the word Al-Lat. Who was Al-Lat? We said that Ahl Ilm gave two explanations for the meaning of the word Lat in regards to this ayah. Number one was that we said about Lat, that either was what? You'll find that Ibn Abbas, the great Sahabi, radiallahu an, that he put a shadda on the ta, which, as we know in the Quran, right now, in the qira'at Hafs, the recitation of Hafs is what we read. Well, you notice in the Quran it's recited like this, أَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّةَ أَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّةَ وَمَنَاةَ الثَّالِثَةَ الْأُخْرَى أَلَكُمُ الذَّكَرُ وَلَهُ الْأُنْثَى تِلْكَ إِذًا قِسْمَةٌ ضِيزَةٌ. طيب. Ibn Abbas, the great Sahabi, read it with another recitation. He said, أَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّةَ وَمَنَاةَ الثَّالِثَةَ الْأُخْرَى. That's how Ibn Abbas recited it. أَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّةَ. No, the shadda on the ta. أَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّةَ. You'll find that Ahl Ilm, Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwa, that they say in regards to the recitations of the Quran, learning the recitations or some of the readings also will aid you in other meanings of the ayat. You understand? So Ibn Abbas recited the Quran like this, أَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّةَ. How we read it in Hafs, in the recitation now in the Quran is what, everyone? رَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّةَ. So Ibn Abbas recited it another way. Based upon the recitation of Ibn Abbas, he gives another meaning. رَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّةَ. لَاتَ وَالْعُزَّةَ, or that, upon that recitation of Ibn Abbas, when he put a shadda on the ta, that the meaning of the ayat here is that it was a man. Because it's an ismu fa'il, فَلَتَّ يَلُتُّ. لَتَّ يَلُتُّ is a verb in Arabic language that means to crush something. It means to crush something or grind it up. Basically, upon that meaning that Ibn Abbas mentioned, he's saying that there was a man that used to grind up food. He used to grind up the food, or grind up this type of sumun, or this type of fat, in which he would make for the people who came to make Hajj. He would grind it up and he would give it to them. He would grind it up and he would give it to them during their time when they would come, or during the occasion of Hajj. And also likewise, Tariq, that Lat was a man who was righteous. And he used to serve the Hujjaj, or the people of Hajj, from a specific place. Where there was a what? There was a rock that was carved, sculptured, and it was smooth. They say that he used to feed the people who came to perform Hajj from that particular place. So upon the first meaning of a Lat, it was a man. Upon the recitation of Ibn Abbas, where he said Al-Lat, then you have the regular recitation that if you used to open the Mus'haf right now, you recite it just like this. أَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّةِ. That's the recitation which we read in the Mus'haf right now. Now upon that meaning, the word Lat was, they say, is initially, it's a feminine word that was flipped from Allah. It was a feminine word flipped from Allah. It was feminine. So Allah Ta'ala, they took the lafz al-jalala of Allah Ta'ala, flipped it and made it a female. So they called it Lat. Lat. A Lat, that was the second meaning of what they say, based upon the recitation that we recite in the Mus'haf now. If you used to open it now, that's the recitation of it. So either, number one, it was what, everyone? Either a man or what? Or it was a rock in which they flipped the name from Allah to the female. Lat. Lat. And you'll find that they also say that the second meaning is conclusive or is comprehensive, for it was a rock. It was an actual rock. It was a rock, it was huge, and it was smooth. And it had upon it carvings. Some type of carvings on it. So, you had the first meaning, which means there was a man who's righteous. And then you had the second meaning, which is what, everyone? Well, it was a rock. And they used the name Allah and they wanted to switch it to what? A female, and make it feminine. So they call it Lat. Lat. No. So in this regard, Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwa, after they said that this man had died, they took that particular place in which he used to serve the Hujjaj. They now started, it became a wathad. It became a place in which the people started to worship. Congregate, gather around, until Shaitan decorated it, and he made it as a place of worship. But he started to now what? People started to go to that particular place in order to what? Receive some type of so-called what? Blessing from that particular place. So they would go there and they would seek blessing from a Lat. Lat, like we said initially, was from what? It's a location where it was or where it was placed, where what we know is it belonged to the tribe of Bani Thaqif, where the location of Lat was for the people of Ta'if. The people of Ta'if. Ta'if is an area that's right outside of Mecca. It still exists to this day, and you'll find that a lot of people during the summertime go there because the weather is very nice. Ta'if. It's called Ta'if. It's right outside of Mecca. It's not that far from Mecca. And to this day, you'll find that Ahl Ilm, even from them, Sheikh Salih Fawzan, that even goes there for vacation during the summertime because the weather is very, very what? It's very nice. So, in this regard of Lat, Lat, it was placed, or the rock was placed in that particular area around Ta'if. And it was for the tribe of Thaqif, Bani Thaqif, where they were the ones who used to what? They used to be custodians for this particular idol. And he used to have a what? He used to have a cover on it. And they used to also what? Upkeep it. And they used to have custodians for it to what? Make sure that it was what? It was well kept and it was also maintained. The Prophet ﷺ had commanded the great Sahabi Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah. You writing this down? You playing with your fingers? Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah to go to that particular what? Idol and destroy it. Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah radiyallahu anhu ardah went to that particular idol and he destroyed it. He destroyed it. So Mughira ibn Shu'bah was the one that took charge in destroying this particular idol, which was taken as a place of worship. And not only was it taken as a place of worship, it was taken as a place of blessing, where the people wanted to seek and they wanted to attain some type of barakah, in which the Prophet ﷺ, like we said, ordered that it be what? Demolished, and that it be removed. Say it again. Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah. Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah. When this righteous person died, whose name was Allat, which was upon the first meeting that we mentioned, when he died, the people started devoting towards that place where he used to serve, the Hujjaj, which was near that rock, as they say. And as a result of it, Shaitan decorated it to the people, and he took it as a what? As a wathan, as a place of worship, and seeking blessing from. So, how is this applicable to the title now? Where does it apply? That's what we need to ask. How is this applicable? How did the great Imam, why did he extract this ayah as evidence? Why, everyone? Contemplate. Look at the title and look at what we just read, what you just written down, what everyone had wrote. I'm sorry, what they written down. Tafadal. Upon the second meaning of Allat is what? A rock. Look at the title. Exactly. So that's how it ties in. Exactly, Jamal. That's how the title of why he used the ayah as a what? As a dalil. Based upon the second meaning of the meaning of Lat. Which was what, everyone? It was a rock. It was a rock. They used to seek and they used to what? Try to attain some type of barakah and some type of worship from it. Also, likewise, upon the tafsir, the second tafsir of it, what will one say? How is it applicable to the title? The second one, or the first one, excuse me. I'll say it again. This person was a righteous individual. He died, and when he died, they took where he used to serve, or that place where he used to serve the Hujjaj, as a place to worship. Upon that is a refutation against those who worship people who are dead in their graves. So upon the other meaning is connected with where the mu'allif, or what the author had actually put at the end of the title, which is what, everyone? Rock, tree, or anything similar to it. We said anything similar to it is also comprehensive for what? For people who worship graves. Or people who what? Take the graves as places of worship. So, upon the second tafsir, what is it? Or upon the second meaning, what is applied to, meaning the man dying, who's righteous, meaning the prohibition of worshiping or any place where a righteous person died and going to that particular place and starting to worship it. As what a lot of the people do these days, and a lot of the Muslims, you'll find that they do that in a lot of different countries. Where if a person is righteous, he'll die, they'll go to that particular place, and they will start making dua to that particular individual, not to Allah, to the individual, asking him. These are all things in which you'll find that the great Imam had noticed while he was spreading this da'wah, and he was writing these particular treaties that we're mentioning now, Kitaab At-Tawheed, the great Imam Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahab. So this type of grave worship, it was taking place during his even during his life. To the point, like we said, he wrote Kitaab At-Tawheed in order to refute these ideologies, especially because they are the worst of all sins that anyone can think of and anyone can imagine. They're the worst there is the most worst, more than killing, murder, if killing of 1,000 people. Polytheism is at the top of the list. Where you can find fighting. Jamal, we can still hear you over here a little bit, yeah. Whether it is fighting or murdering or bloodshed, or if you want to say pillage, or if you want to say absolute ravaging or pillage, or if you want to say just absolute bloodshed. What's at the top of that is what? Polytheism. Surpasses all of that. Think of the most worst or most filthiest sin a human being can commit, of what will transgress against another human being. Polytheism surpasses all of that. You understand, everyone? It's polytheism, associate partners along with Allah Ta'ala, surpasses and it what precedes all of that. So in this regard, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, that we said. So the first tafsir is what? What did we say? So the first one is a rock, and the second one is a person who is righteous. How do we apply it, like we said to the title? The first one we said was a rock, and the second one is applicable to what? Grave worshiping. Because like we said, the whole fitna of the ummah of shirk, of polytheism, while it was open, if you notice to go back to the history of what took place at polytheism here, on this earth, or on this planet, or on this place that we walk on, which is the dunya, how the door was open, that shaitan allowed the people to go through the door of polytheism from, was what happened during the time of Nuh, where people who were righteous died. And as a result of it, shaitan decorated to the people, them and their statues, and also their images, until they started to what? Take their graves as a place of worship. So this type of sunnah of jahiliyyah started from the time of old, all the way up to what? To these present day times and modern day times. So second one is what? Also now we're going to move on to the second part of the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّى. As we know, Al-Uzza, also likewise, we talked about Al-Uzza. That was also called an idol in which the people did worship. Al-Uzza was also derivative from the word Aziz. Aziz. And they flipped it and made it a female. Or they say that it means, or it's the female of Al-Az, which means Uzza. It's the same thing. But at any rate, they tried to make it feminine. Tried to make it what? Feminine. Uzza. From the word A'az or Aziz. Uzza was also likewise an idol, in which you'll find there were what? There were groups of trees, and they were also by, there were groups of trees. And they were also by the date palm tree. There was by a date palm tree, and there was also a group of trees that are around this area. It was an idol that was for the people of Mecca. And like he said, there was trees around it that were 3. Shajarat thalatha in the summer. And this particular idol also had a structure on top of it. Tariq. So if I was to ask everyone now, and I was to ask you, and I was to ask the young brothers, and I was to ask the brothers who are here, and I'm going to test you on this. I'm going to ask you, what's the first meaning of, that's the other already. It came out again, yeah, about 5 more minutes. Somebody phone? 8:40? I'm going to ask everybody, I'm going to ask the young brothers, do you see Lat? And I'm going to ask, what is the meanings of Lat? And I'm going to ask, where were they located? All these questions I'm going to ask. Like I said, focus. Notice a lot of brothers, they do this during the lesson. Brothers, you have to have respect for me. At the end of the day, alhamdulillah, I don't care about myself. Just have respect for ilm. People get disrespect, I don't care about myself. At least have respect for the ilm. That's all I ask. No more, no less. Have respect for the ilm and try to be diligent in learning these matters. These are very important. This is the knowledge of the grave in which, like we said, all of us will be tested on. Purifying these affairs is what is going to attain, by them, you're going to attain salvation of your hereafter. That's what's important. So that's why I highly emphasize to what? Focus. Focus for a couple of minutes and the class will be over. But as far as like showing no type of raghbah, no type of desire or enthusiasm about this particular ilm, then like we said, ask Allah Ta'ala to try to make everyone to clarify their minds. It's just any type of thing that's on your mind right now, just leave it for the side right now. All of us have problems in our lives, or some Allah Ta'ala is testing us somewhere. All of us. There's nobody out here so they're being tested some type of way. But at the same time, it's a time and place for everything. We don't try to carry our problems on our sleeves or wear our problems everywhere we go and everyone we meet. Put it to the side for a minute. When it's time to deal with it, we deal with it. But we don't always wear it on our sleeves. As far as when it comes to these classes, whatever you have on your mind, just leave it outside for a second. Put it to the side. And also likewise, even similar to your family sometimes. In regards to your families, I'm sure when you come home from your work, you don't bring your problems home to your household. You leave it at work. And you come home and relax. Similar to that, when you come to the masjid, you have problems, just put it to the side for a second and focus. Jayid? Tayyib. So we said in regard to Uzza, that we said it was a sanam, it was an actual idol that was what? That was had around it those 3 trees. It also had over it a dome or structure that was raised. That it was raised high and it was put on top. In which you'll find it was for the Quraysh. And the people of Ahl Makkah used to what? People of Mecca used to worship it also. Until during the time of the great Sahabi who was Abu Sufyan, radiallahu anh, before he became Muslim, when they were in the battle with the Prophet ﷺ, you'll find that they said in their statement, where they said, لَنَا الْعُزَّةَ وَلَا عُزَّ لَكُمْ. He says, we have Uzza, you have Uzza, is not for you. It's not going to aid you, it doesn't belong to you. So the Prophet ﷺ said, say to them, Allahu mawlana wa la mawla lakum. Allah is our protector and you don't have any protector. So that was during the time of what? Before Abu Sufyan radiallahu anhu became what? Became from the great Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ. Well, it's to show everyone that how Uzza had a very high status in the hearts of the mushrikeen, of the polytheists. Until what? Until they used to say these type of statements, even during battles. It shows that what? They used to worship it along with Allah or besides Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Along with Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. As we know that Khalid, the Saifullah, Khalid al-Walid was given the function or the duty to destroy Uzza. Until the Prophet ﷺ sent him to the place where Uzza was located. And you'll find that the tribe that was around protecting Uzza or protecting that particular idol, you'll find when the Prophet ﷺ had came to Mecca, when the conquest of Mecca, the last part of the revelation, in the conquest of Mecca, he sent Khalid al-Walid there. And as soon as they see Khalid al-Walid, they started fleeing to the hills. They started fleeing to the hills out of fear of Khalid al-Walid radiallahu anhu. Then he came back, then he destroyed the actual idol. He destroyed the idol and went back to the Prophet ﷺ, and until the message of Allah ﷺ said, Anta ma sana'ta shay'an. You didn't do anything. So he sent Khalid al-Walid back to the idol. Until, listen to how shirk and polytheism leads one down a road of affairs, ya Dawood. He leads people down the road. Shirk, polytheism leads down to the road where people will start to do some very, very obscene and weird things. Until when Khalid al-Walid, when he arrived to this particular idol, you'll find there was a woman that was naked. She was naked and her hair was standing up and looking very extremely strange. She was spreading her hair, and she was the one that was what? She was the one that was the actual idol. It's a woman. Until Khalid al-Walid had took the sword and he what? He killed her, until when the Messenger of Allah said, that was Uzza. He said, that was Uzza. In which was a shaitan. In which the shaitan had what? Allowed this woman to do these type of what? Strange, weird acts. And you'll find that every place and every time where people practice polytheism, they do some extremely strange things. And they have some extremely strange practices. Of every place you'll find where shaitan has opened the door of polytheism to the people, you'll find that they do these really extremely strange, crazy acts. So that was the Uzza. Like we said, there was also what? From the different famous idols of the mushrikeen during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then you had the last, like we said, was Manat, which was Manat, which is a Thalithatul Ukhra. You'll find that Manat also likewise was in a place that was between Mecca and Medina, but it was a little bit more closer to Al-Medina. It was a little bit more closer to what? Al-Medina. You'll find that Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu was actually sent in order to demolish this particular idol, Manat. Also you'll find that they took the word and they what? Flipped it from the word Mannan, and they made it feminine again. So they took a word that was from Allah Ta'ala's names, Mannan, the one who bestows the blessing upon the people, or constantly bestows the blessing upon the people, which is the meaning of the word Mannan. So the mushrikeen came and they flipped it and made it feminine and called it Manat, Manatun. They made it Manat, the third, in which the Prophet ﷺ had what? That he sent Ali ibn Abi Talib in order to what? Demolish it and destroy it. Have it disseminated in all of its aspects completely. All this you'll find, ya ma'ash al-ikhwa, all these particular idols, you'll find that they used to what? Glorify it, magnify it. They used to also slaughter, sacrifice for it. All these different acts of worship. Until, like we said, you'll find also likewise, from the meanings of Manat, from the meanings of Manat, from them is from the word Mina. It's from the word Mina, in which we know is a place where a lot of blood sacrifices take place when people want to slaughter animals. So another meaning of the word Manat that they say is that they used to slaughter a lot of sacrifices or offer a lot of sacrifices by this particular what? Idol. That a lot of blood used to be spilled, meaning that they used to offer a lot of sacrifices. They used to order a lot of what? Sacrifices of animals that they would slaughter for this particular idol. And we know that, like we said, these type of acts is all acts of what? Polytheism, which the Prophet ﷺ strongly prohibited. So you'll find that blood used to come out profusely due to the fact that they used to slaughter a lot of sacrifices in this particular place. Until even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called it al-ukhra. A lot of people think that the word in the ayah, if you look in the Quran, the word ukhra here means other. That's what people would think. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was trying to demean it and say how lowly it is, and clarify how lowly this particular idol is, where he called it ukhra, meaning it's muta'akhira haqira, meaning how lowly it is, and how condemned, and has no significance. For Allah Ta'ala condemned it by this what? This particular name, al-ukhra, meaning that it's lowly, this particular idol. So upon the meaning of Manat, either it was a female name of Mannan, and also likewise they said that the other meaning of it is what, everyone? It was the other meaning of Manat, that it was a place where a lot of blood used to what? Tafadal. I'm sorry. Put that in there. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة آت محمد الصيغة في الضيد الأعظم قام محمود الذي وعده طيب. So the word manat, like we said, number one, was either a word that was flipped, it was altered from the original name, which is Mannan, which is from the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Mannan, as we know, ya ma'ashul ikhwa, what's the meaning of it? The one who constantly bestows the ni'mah upon the creation. So that's the meaning of the word Mannan. Also likewise, the kathrati ma yumna. Also the meaning of it, due to the abundance of what used to take place by it, of those sacrifices of animals that their blood used to spill. So that particular idol, which you'll find from the tribes of Quraysh, who used to also likewise glorify it and magnify it and consecrate it and raise it. From them was Banu Khuza'ah and Al-Aws wal Khazraj. As you'll find that a lot of the Sahaba were ascribed to these what? A lot to these tribes. You'll find that a lot of the Sahaba were either Khazraji or Awsi. You'll find that they constantly, in a lot of different names that we'll start to explain inshallah a little bit later, when we mention some of the names of the Sahaba. You'll find that they're either Awsi or Khazraji, or for example, that they're also from Bani Khuza'ah and other different what? Tribes from the Quraysh. But at any rate, all these tribes, Aws, Khazraj, Bani Khuza'ah, all of them used to glorify this particular idol, Manat, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also likewise considered and said, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also condemned, condemned and also showed how lowly it is of this particular idol that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemned in His book and named it. And He mentioned it in Surah An-Najm. Talked about these are names in which your forefathers, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not send down any proof of evidence, in which they also likewise did not have any proof of evidence for why they were doing it. Rather, it was just a trick from the tricks of shaitan. So the first meaning of Lat is what, Tariq? Give me one meaning of the word Lat. Any meaning. Which is what? What was the original name? Allah. He flipped it to Lat. What was one of the meanings of Lat? What was one of the meanings of Lat, Dawood? Don't have AbdurRazzaaq rescue you either. What was one of the meanings of Lat? Ibi, what was one of the meanings of Lat? Jade, that's one meaning of rock. Oh, you want to give an answer after he answered it? You just remember after he answered it? Tayyib. What was the meaning of Aziz? Uzzah, excuse me. What was the meaning of Uzzah? What was the meaning of the Uzzah? What did we say? Batin? Abdul Batin, huh?
One trade on Sunset, three trades on 8, about 800.
Jade. What's the meaning of Manat? Tfadal. No, what was the meaning of that? Was the way it was. That was the original name where it was flipped from Manat. But what was the meaning of Manat? Tfadal ya Jamal. Jade. So the one feminine word from Manan to Manat, which was a feminine name for one of the names of Allah. Tayyib, what do we say? Well, from the names of Manat, which is what was one of the names, or the other meaning that we just mentioned of meaning of Manat? Huh? Slaughtering and sacrifice. Jade. That's all you have to say for the first three. Tayyib. In regards to now, if you notice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in His book about how these names, in here illa asma'un sammaytumuha antum wa aba'ukum ma anzalallahu biha min sultan. In yattabi'una illa adh-dhann wa ma tahwa al-anfus. Allah ta'ala talks about in His book, وَلَقَدْ جَاءَهُم مِّن رَّبِّهِمُ الْهُدَى هَلْ مِنْ إِنسَانٍ إِلَّا تَمَنَّىٰ وَلِلَّهِ الْآخِرَةُ وَالْأُولَىٰ وَكَم مِّن مَلَكٍ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ لَا تُغْنِي شَفَاعَتُهُمْ. That's the ayah. Now, that Allah ta'ala that He mentioned in His book, that these are just mere names that you and your forefathers have what? They call these particular matter, or call these particular idols. He said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not send down any dalil. It's the meaning of sultan in a lot of contexts. A lot of people need to know the meaning of sultan in the Arabic language. Sultan does not mean authority in Arabic. Sultan also means dalil, means evidence, proof. It's one of the meanings of the word sultan. It means hujjah, dalil. It's one meaning of the word what? Sultan. Another meaning of the word sultan is ability, qudra, to have the capability or ability. The other meaning of sultan is ability or capability. That's another meaning of sultan. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Surah Ar-Rahman, لَا تَنْفُذُوا إِلَّا بِسُلْطَانٍ. You'll never be able to go past the heavens or cut the distances or the places of the heavens and of the heavens except by sultan, meaning by ability. By sultan, meaning by qudra. ما تنفذون إلا بسلطان, meaning by qudra or quwwah, except by might and also what? Ability. It's another meaning of sultan. Another meaning of sultan is the one who has the jurisdiction of commanding and forbidding, meaning having the power of the authorities, actually. Which means in actuality, him having to be able to what? Command or having the ability to what? Or have the power to also prohibit or stop someone. That's also the meaning of sultan. So you have those three meanings of the word sultan. From them is dalil, evidence and proof. Second one is what? Second one is what? Ability, capability. The third one is what? Jurisdiction of a person who can either prohibit or command. There's something to be carried out. So that is the three meanings of sultan. Here in this particular ayah, Surah An-Najm, Allah Ta'ala said these are names that you call these idols. That Allah did not send down مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ بِهَا مِن sultan. Min sultan here in this particular ayah is what everyone was upon one of the three meanings. The first. The proof without any hujjah, without any dalil, burhan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not send down any proof or evidence to do what you're doing. So Allah also ended it off with what? He says, in what your nafs, in what your desires, what it craves, or what your whims, what it craves for, and what it wants. And with that, we know that, ya ma'ashal ikhwan, that once one's desires overrides his basira, then one is finished. Because now everything that is of good, it flips and turns into something bad in his eyes. And Allah Ta'ala can lead one astray based upon knowledge if he's not careful. And also likewise make sure that he's sincere and genuine when he's also taking ilm. As he could be misled by knowledge if he's not careful. And to Allah Ta'ala can what? Destroy him by him following his desires. For as we know, may support you, آفة الرأي الهوى فمن يطع هواه غالبا فقد هوى وسمي الهوى هوى لأنه يهوي به إلى النار. They need the poetry for now. Anyway, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أفرأيت من اتخذ إلهه هواه وأضله الله على علم. Even a person who's an atheist. A person who's an atheist has taken his desires as a deity. So still in actuality, you're now following something as a type of deity. Whereas now you even glorify your mind and your intellect to the point where you will use that in order to nullify what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent down. So even so-called atheists, or what they use intellectually with their minds that they think, of their ideas and the so-called ideologies or belief that they possess, to where they want to deny the existence of Allah ta'ala, they have taken this in their minds and their intellects as a deity. Where Allah ta'ala says, do you not see that the one who has taken his desires as a deity besides Allah? He's taken his desires as a deity. And Allah has led him astray based upon knowledge. وَخَتَمَ عَلَى قَلْبِهِ وَسَمْعِهِ وَجَعَلَ عَلَى بَصِرِهِ غِشَاوَةً وَمَنْ يَهْدِيهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ اللَّهِ أَفَلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ وَقَالُوا مَا هِيَ إِلَّا حَيَاتُنَا الدُّنْيَا نَمُوتُ وَنَحْيَا وَمَا يُهْلِكُنَا إِلَّا الدَّهْرُ. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, he says about the person now has fallen his desires, Allah will put a seal over his hearing, over his heart, and over his hearing. And he will also put a seal over his eyesight. Here in this particular ayah is talking about that which is correct, of following the proper guidance. Allah will seal your heart and close it for it, accepting it. He will seal your heart from accepting it. A person's heart is still beating, but that which is the proper guidance to put light in it has been shut. You understand, everyone? And also to hear the truth, truly, when it comes to you for you accepting it, then it will be what? It will also be a shield where you will not accept it if you hear it. Due to what? You following your desires in a certain matter until you took it as its deity. And this is what happens to a lot of people who are so-called mufakkirun, so-called people who use their intellects and their minds in order to give precedence to that over what Allah ta'ala has sent down. And this has destroyed all of mankind based upon what they deem, based upon what they deem to be good, or what they deem to be so-called evil in their particular eyes or their particular cultures, in which you'll find, like we said, you will find extremely strange affairs until people who see it with how in the world could you do something like that? Repulsive matters and matters that, like we said, that are evil is due to the fact that people have now used their minds and their intellects, and they gave precedence to that until they have rejected and disregarded what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down. And this is why chaos is in the earth right now. Chaos is in the earth because of rejection of what Allah sent down, and people following their own opinions and their own desires and their own ideologies and their own beliefs of what they seem to be or what they deem to be good or evil. This is the reason why chaos is all in the earth, because of this. Because of people following their desires. Even like we talked about, people who deny the existence of Allah, glorify their minds and their intellects to the point that we rejected the wahi. That's the first one. Here comes the second. So in regards to what we mentioned, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, this is also the reason why the polytheists fell into what they fell into. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that they were only following what their desires wanted. Which came as a result of it, they fell into this type of misguidance. So that's the reason why we say that it's dangerous to follow your own desires especially in regards to the religion of Allah ta'ala. As the poet says in his poetry, وَآفَةِ الرَّأْيِ الْهَوَى فَمَنْ يُطِعْ هَوَاهُ غَالِبًا فَقَدْ هَوَى وَسُمِّيَ الْهَوَى هَوًى لِأَنَّهُ يَهْوِي بِهِ إِلَى النَّارِ. This says in his poetry. He said, the آفَةِ الرَّأْيِ الْهَوَى فَمَنْ يُطِعْ هَوَاهُ غَالِبًا فَقَدْ هَوَى. He says the destruction of hawa, وَآفَةِ الرَّأْيِ, the destruction of your opinion, وَآفَةِ الرَّأْيِ الْهَوَى, of your opinion, especially in regards to using your opinion to oppose the Kitaab and Sunnah, وَآفَةِ الرَّأْيِ الْهَوَى فَمَنْ يُطِعْ هَوَاهُ غَالِبًا فَقَدْ هَوَى. Your opinion is following your desires. Well, a person who follows his opinion or follows his desires, he will end up plunging. Plunging until that which is what it says in the last part of the poetry, وَآفَةَ الرَّأْيِ الْهَوَى فَمَنْ يُطِعْ هَوَاهُ غَالِبًا فَقَدْ هَوَى وَسُمِّيَ الْهَوَى هَوًى لِأَنَّهُ يَهْوِي بِهِ إِلَى النَّارِ. Hawa is called hawa because it plunges you into the fire. Because we know at the end of that another meaning of hawa and yahwi means is to plunge or to dip down into something. So that is the afa, or the destructiveness of what? Following one's opinion and following his desires. As you'll find, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, in the last part, and we'll stop here inshallah. And when I want to talk about what happened with the people during the Ghazwat al-Hunayn, of the battle of Hunayn. And we'll talk and discuss a little bit about the battle. As a matter of fact, we have to stop and pray. Anyway, I don't want to stop in the last part. I wanted to mention about what happened in Hunayn. Anyway, you will find also likewise what the great Imam used as a dalil in this particular chapter is the hadith of Abu Waqid al-Laythi. Abu Waqid al-Laythi. And we know Ghazwat al-Hunayn, when the Prophet ﷺ had went out for the expedition of what? Of the battle of Hunayn. That expedition which was what? Later down in the last part of the Revelation, in which the Prophet ﷺ set out for it. And also likewise the Muslims were huge in their number. As it says in some of the narration that they were 13,000, in which they were embarked upon this battle. It took place as a result of them being pleased with their numbers, is that they became defeated. Because of their numbers. So also you'll find, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, these story, in which we'll talk about in the next class, to be pleased at one's numbers and glorify and rejoice over how many numbers we have. Look at all these numbers. It's not from our what? From our way. If the people answer the call, alhamdulillah. If they don't, then we also glorify Allah ta'ala in all circumstances, even if it's just a couple of people that answer the truth. However, we do not base things upon and rejoice at our numbers, as our numbers are not going to what? Change anything, or not is going to not, it's not going to either what? Make anything better or change it if the people don't change themselves. Changing themselves as far as establishing the Tawheed of Allah and learning this ilm, and also likewise learning the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and also learning what is bid'ah, and also stay away from affairs that angers Allah Ta'ala. Because numbers, like we just said during the time of what happened in this particular ghazwa, that you'll find that they also fled in the battle. What happened is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, and I'll stop here, he says, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the battle himself, وَيَوْمَ حُنَيْنٍ إِذْ أَعْجَبَتْكُمْ كَثْرَتُكُمْ وَلَنْ تُغْنِي عَنْكُمْ شَيْئًا وَضَاقَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْأَرْضُ بِمَا رَحُبَتْ ثُمَّ وَلَّيْتُمْ مُدْبِرِينَ. He says, during the ghazwa of Hunayn, when you were pleased by your numbers. We didn't pray yet, we're about to pray inshallah. We're about to pray Isha, we didn't pray Isha yet. So in regards to the numbers, Allah Ta'ala has said about that, on the day of Hunayn, your numbers pleased you. And it did not benefit you anything at least until the earth became restricted that was around you, and you fled away from the battle. Because of what? Because the battle, or that the victory comes from Allah Ta'ala only, and not from just mere numbers. But however, established in the correct aqidah, and also likewise being affirmed upon istiqamah, is what brings the victory. Especially learning the affairs of monotheism and establishing it. So we'll stop here in this particular lesson, and then we'll continue Sunday inshallah. Any questions about the lesson? It's a lot of different places, a whole lot. From the bottom of the poetries, you'll find us a book called, they translated, I couldn't believe they translated this book, I don't know why. But the book is not